Hey everyone, it's Kirsten. I am just so thrilled to be sharing this video with you dancers out there who are struggling with an injury. I have so much compassion for what you're going through, a lot of empathy. If you don't know why, just scroll through some of my later videos from 2017. I struggled with a very serious knee injury that ended up taking me out of dancing professionally, but that is also why I'm able to share this stuff with you, and I'm grateful for what that time in my life produced. There's a lot of good that came out of it, and I just want to share some of the perspective that I've learned coming through an injury that I literally thought would never end. So today's video is going to be all about how to deal with the emotions of an injury so that you can actually progress towards sustained healing. First off, I just want to say that dancers love being in control. I know that, well, from my perspective, my opinion is that this is likely just an effect of being in an industry and a lifestyle that is extremely uncertain. It's only natural that a dancer would want to cling onto any sort of control that they can muster in order to have some sort of stability in their life. So I totally get this, and I've been that person. But the thing is, that usually our bodies are the easiest thing that we can control. We know that they won't immediately talk back and things like that. And it can kind of be that one tool that we can just assert all that dominance on and take advantage of in order to get where we want to go. However, I want to just bring us back to this holistic perspective that understands that our bodies send us signals constantly. They're always communicating with us, and they're communicating with you so that you can be well. The body will always help you if you help it. And I just want to bring in the idea that your body, your physical body, is extremely connected to the energetic consequences of your thoughts, your beliefs, and certainly your actions. It's not just physical force that can bring destruction into your body. It's also overwhelming stress that comes from certain thought patterns that you've developed and let fester over time. And so I really want to bring in this more holistic, mindset-oriented perspective into injury healing, because I know for me and my story, I had so many limiting beliefs, and I had so little faith that I would actually get better, and I just let that mindset spiral out of control to where I was just constantly going to doctors asking, for any sort of crazy drastic treatment because I had this fix me sort of mentality. So I just want to maybe propose the idea that until you heal the part of your mind that allowed this injury to manifest itself in the first place, it's unlikely that you will sustain healing of that injury for good. So the very first step to all this inner work that will end up aiding your physical healing is to step back. And this could be difficult, but just sit with the reality that you're in right now and learn to accept it. And then, as you're able to accept it with a level of self-compassion, start to assume responsibility for the ways that you've allowed this injury to come about. I know this seems probably cruel and really crazy, especially when you're in the depth of your emotions, but one thing I learned through my very, very difficult injury experience is that I had to accept personal responsibility for this. I knew that if I really looked back into the first time I started to think, okay, I need to be more turned out. So I would twist, especially my right leg, because I wanted to get a certain line out of this right leg. So what started is like, my body isn't good enough as it is. I don't care if I have to hurt my knee, I'm going to turn out. That progressed over years and years and years and years. Then in my professional life, this knee pain started to come up again. And I had adopted this mindset that you just push through and do whatever it takes, and you just have to have enough grit and the injuries will just go away. I was ignoring and I was suppressing. And suppressing is a really big thing I want to talk about today, because if you're able to go deep into what you're suppressing and take responsibility for it and actually release that, which is usually a fear that comes up, you have to release it. If you don't release the thoughts and fears and all that stuff that you're suppressing, it's just going to continue to fester and manifest in your life in ways that you really just don't want. And so for me, not only did those thoughts I just mentioned start to create this problem, but then I was so afraid of what an injury would do to disrupt my best laid plans in life that I ignored the signs for months, like 6 months, something like that. I was dancing on a torn tendon and I allowed it to get worse and worse. And I suppressed that fear of stopping and healing so much that I was literally ignorant to the fact that almost half of my tendon was torn in my knee, the patellar tendon. It was crazy. That's the power of the mind. And then once I actually got an MRI and saw what was happening, then way more pain started to come back into my body because I was aware of the reality, and it was just crazy. So that's why I talk about all this mindset stuff, because what you're thinking and what you allow to become a part of your reality and what you believe you can change, that is what you experience. And that's directly responsible for the changes you see in your life. So through this deep and brave contemplation that you'll hopefully not go through alone, you really need to go through it with people who actually care about you and you trust them and who know what to do with your emotions and know how to support you. So with that, you can move towards restoration of the mind. And here's what this restoration of the mind really means. Here are some steps. So first, acknowledge, just bring into your awareness the fears and the limiting beliefs that you have going on in your head. This could be that you'll never make it as a dancer. Once you're injured, you're ruined. You'll never be the same. Your body isn't good enough, and so you're always going to have to push it. Just observe what you really believe about yourself that are these, observe these beliefs that are actually causing harm. The next thing is one of the most challenging but most important steps of this whole process, which is to surrender. Whether you surrender to God or whatever you believe in, or just the reality you're experiencing, allow yourself to go into this state and for just at least a time, relinquish this deep desperation to control everything, because an injury, let's really see it as a wake-up call, right? It's telling you you can't control everything. You can do your best, of course, you can behave with intention and integrity, but you can't control every single outcome. So you really need to first step into this state of surrender where you actually, and this takes time and partnership, but get to the point where you know that no matter what happens, you are going to be okay, and you have faith that you can use anything that you learn for your benefit, better yet, for the benefit of others. So just have faith that there is a fruitfulness available to you through this process. And yes, it's difficult, and yes, it is a wake-up call. So let's just be present to what this is a wake-up call to. And later on in this video, I'm going to get into some questions that you can really take away from here and contemplate for yourself to really walk through this process of healing. My next tip is to surround yourself with people who really care for you. And you need these people to be like in a mental contract with you, that they are not going to see you as broken, even when you see yourself as broken. These people in your life are so important to be representatives for you that there is life beyond this, and that no, you're not going to be stuck there forever. These people are going to be there for you to encourage you, to listen to you, but to not let you go on so long when you're actually saying things that are destructive towards yourself. Sometimes it's okay to let these things out, but I'm so thankful for the people in my life through that injury process who are like, okay, Kirsten, now you're really speaking nonsense, okay? That is not true about you, even when I would be like, no, and I'm never gonna amount to anything, and my life is a disaster, and I'm a mess. You need people to encourage you, but you also need people to call you out when enough is enough, and it's time to get up, I would also recommend identifying these people very clearly and telling them, you really mean a lot to me in my life, and I really need your help at this time. I need your partnership. Be really clear about your needs. I should make that a separate point. Don't be afraid to ask for what you need. Don't be afraid. It doesn't mean you're weak by asking for help. It actually means you are so strong and you are so smart. You're so smart to do that, because if you don't express your needs, don't expect people to come to you with every perfect thing to say and be there for you in every moment you need them, because a lot of times, as dancers especially, we suppress so much. People can't always read from us when they should be helping, or they can't always know when you need help or when you want help. A lot of times people who love you can see that you need help, but it's really sensitive. They don't know if you want their help. So be clear about this and really express your needs so that you could have that relationship set in place of, you're going to be a person I call on. You're a person who's going to keep me accountable. You're going to listen. You're going to speak life into me. Things like that. It's just really, really important to set these relationships. And I would also recommend with the people around you, even peers. I started doing this with people when I was getting back into company class. There were so many people, this was exhausting, every single day, coming up to me. And the first thing they would ask is, how's your knee? And I found it so hurtful and inconsiderate over every single day, like at least 6 people would come up and ask me that. And maybe I didn't want to talk about it. It's like people just started to look at me like I was a walking knee injury. Or they stopped talking to me because I became this visual representation of their greatest fear in life. And so just know that people are going to treat you strangely, and that's on them, okay? It's going to be frustrating, but also you can set people straight. I started to do this. I'd just be like, I don't want to talk about my knee right now. There's more to my life than my knee injury. I got really straight up with some people because it was just constantly bringing me down. I wasn't talking about it. I was ready to be seen as a whole person. I was ready to be seen for my value and as a person who stepped out of this injury. And I wanted people to see me as that as well. So I set that precedent, and I would recommend just being bold when you need to. That's okay. And you don't have to make people comfortable, guys. You don't have to tell them what they want to hear. You don't have to tell them, I'm really doing great, especially if you're not doing really well. If you're doing terribly, it hurts you inside to start living a lie. So don't tell people you're doing great if you don't want to. If that hurts you, tell them exactly how you feel. You'll find your real friends. The next thing is to be really gentle with your body and be very observant. Be observant of the types of pain, the one category of pain that means you actually need to hold off, you're doing more damage, and then observe the type of discomfort that comes when you are actually gaining strength, because the deal is a lot of us have unrealistic expectations of how an injury actually feels as we heal. It's probably going to hurt. It's going to be uncomfortable, especially if you are gaining strength in your body again. Muscle strength comes by tearing the muscle fibers so that they can re-strengthen again. So it's going to be uncomfortable. You have to know the difference. And then by knowing the difference, you'll have that greater level of self-awareness to where you can trust your body and listen to it and back off when you need to, so you don't just increase your emotions, increase your pain and your despair and all these things. And then also when you're uncomfortable, but it's time to push, you can have that faith that you are going to listen to your body. This is just a part of the process. You accept it into your reality, so it doesn't, make you absolutely sick to your stomach when you're in pain, because you think, like me, I would literally feel nauseous when I felt sharp pains, because the story going on in my head was, oh my gosh, I'm going to fail, I'm done, I'm broken, I'm not going to make it past this. And so it was just triggering like this trauma, honestly, every time I would feel pain. And so if you are experiencing that, I would really recommend talking to a professional about that, whether it be a coach like me or a therapist. Sometimes that's necessary, because this can be considered a trauma over time, especially if it just completely alters the way you perceive yourself and your life, and it causes you tremendous pain. I also want to say that there's this shocking phenomenon where we can actually become so used to pain that we create a habit out of pain. Your mind is so powerful. And actually, if you guys saw the testimonial I just posted from Harper on my Instagram, Harper is a lovely young dancer I talked to. I was able to help her with the pain she was going through with her injury. And her pain actually significantly subsided, and she got over her injury after we spoke, because what we did is we just broke away that old thought process where she would remember each time she goes into a fondue that her knee would hurt. So what happens each time she anticipated a fondue? She would think, my knee is going to hurt. Just by the awareness of how her mind was actually creating the pain, even when, I believe she said her doctor was telling her, you're cleared to do fondues, this is fine. The pain that we're used to is something that your mind can recreate if you allow it. So you really need to examine the thought patterns that you've constructed around this injury. And that's why the work I do is so significant for dancers going through injuries. The next thing is to just acknowledge that this time is temporary. Really absorb that belief into your mind, because I know it's so easy to feel like your life is literally over and you're never going to get better because you've tried everything, It's so easy to start to believe things like that and lose hope because we're impatient and we just see everyone else dancing and you just want to get back, And for me, I was fitting my injury healing timeline into our performance schedule and not what my body was actually telling me. And so just absorb that this time is temporary. There are ebbs and flows in life, and just trust that this time is there for you to understand and learn things and grow in ways that prosperous times could not help you grow in. They couldn't. Prosperity can't teach you certain things the way that pain and trials do. Just imagine your future self looking back on you now with compassion and perspective. This will get better, I promise. I also just really want to acknowledge this common, very damaging narrative that I've observed in the professional ballet sphere, which is this story that a lot of prominent professionals are telling of, my foot is broken or was broken, and I just got a cortisone shot in my foot and did all these shows and then won a gold medal at this competition. And that's where my career really started. And then I ignored my foot injury and it got better. Those are success stories in our industry. I think that's so jacked up. And that is part of what caused me such perpetual pain, because I can't believe it now, looking back on my mindset, going through this knee injury. I literally believed that I just needed to push harder and be a stronger person, and then my knee injury is going to get better. But I wasn't willing to lessen up on the physical, force I was putting on my knee to get better. I went back in the studio after 3 weeks post-surgery. 3 weeks. That's nuts, okay? That's nuts. I would not recommend that to anybody. And that was just because I inherited this mindset of, well, no guts, no glory, No, what about the holistic perspective of your body is telling you what it needs, and you don't need to treat it like it's your slave, Treat it like a teammate, because that's really what it is. And in that principle, I just want to say that there are no shortcuts, okay? It's not like one surgery or one injection is going to heal you forever. You really need to work on your mind and examine what got you to that point. Mental restoration, like the kind I'm talking about, and regaining of crucial strength is everything in this process. There are no shortcuts. There are no quick fixes. There are treatments that are really effective, but it's not the 100% that you need in order to get back to wholeness. You need your mind to be on your side. You need to do the right things in following up after your procedure or treatment in order to really heal and make sure it works, okay? So there's a lot more to this. So kind of just get rid of that mentality that there are quick fixes. Okay, so as promised, here are the questions I have for you to just really contemplate. And actually on my website, I'm adding a blog section so that you can actually find these questions typed out. So just go to kempcoachingalliance.com. You can find the blog section in the toolbar or the navigation bar, and you'll find these questions written out. I would highly recommend that you go through them and really give it time and consideration. So the first one is, and be really honest with yourself. What in your life prior to your injury desperately needed to be disrupted? How might this injury be calling you back into wholeness in your life? How might this injury be calling you back into a state of balance in your life? What in your life were you really trying to suppress or avoid before this injury? This could be thoughts or beliefs or just certain lifestyle changes you didn't want to make. What were you suppressing or avoiding? How much do you trust your body to take care of itself and heal itself? And how much do you trust yourself to actually carry on and get through this? How might your fears and limiting beliefs actually be stalling the process of healing? And in your injury right now, what thoughts or emotions or beliefs do you find yourself avoiding or suppressing? What are those thoughts that you're really afraid of? And what are you really afraid of? And now, after all these questions, I know that's scary, but just acknowledge that this can be painful and terrifying to answer these questions, but it is so important. And just acknowledge, answer the question for yourself. Even if the worst case scenario, whatever your worst case scenario is, happened, what are the chances that you're going to be okay? I'd say it's 100%. Even if your okay looks different than you wanted, maybe that's better, because we don't truly know what's good for us. We don't know everything. We don't see the bigger picture in life. And so sometimes we just need we need these wake-up calls, and we need things to not go according to plan, to see things and learn things and do things that our control-oriented selves would never do. And I'd like to propose that the life outside of your expectations is really vibrant and really exciting, because you can't plan it and you can't control it. And I think that our society praises people who are ultimately in control and can handle everything, but I see so much more strength and power in the people who are so okay with living in a state of surrender that they can do anything with anything that comes their way. And that, yes, they choose the way they respond and they choose their reality, but they don't try to control all the variables that are actually outside of our control. That takes strength. That takes integrity. That takes vulnerability. That's so significant, especially in your injury healing process. So if any of you are really like, okay, this is good advice, but I know I need more guidance, and you feel like you don't have someone there for you who is trained to understand what to do with your thoughts and to help you reframe these patterns that have gotten you here in the first place, I can be that person for you. So don't hesitate to go to my website and see how my services can help you. Go ahead and schedule your free consultation if you're seriously considering if coaching is a good thing for you. I would say that it is, and if you're hesitant, definitely go check out that testimonial I mentioned from Harper. It's truly amazing to see her results, and I'm so happy for her, and I really wish that for more of you. Other than that, I'd also recommend that you guys read or listen to on Audible David Hallberg's book, A Body of Work. I just listened to that this weekend, and I was so impacted by the end of it. I would highly recommend it because he truly went through one of the worst injuries I've seen or heard of in detail, and he made it back. And it was just like an absolutely crazy journey to go on with him in his book. I would recommend that because I think it will really put a lot into perspective for you guys. Anyway, I will leave this here, and I'll see you soon. Bye.
Yeah. Yeah, I did notice like I like don't get frank, but it's awkward though. They both seem to